You know who else doesn't like Chris Paul? Kanye West. Kanye West.
Why is that, Jay?
You know.
Oh, he had Twitter a buzz this week.
Hitler grabbed all the headlines. You know,
right?
Him defending Hitler and all that. But his last tweet out the door is, saying he caught CP3 and Kim Kardashian together when they were married.
Threw him right under the bus, huh?
Yeah. And so we don't know when this was, but we have spoken before about the Kardashian-Jenner curse.
And welcome back to the What Are They Going to Say Now podcast. I'm Tony, and this is Jay. And we're back with you to talk about a bunch of different stuff in the world of sports, as we usually do. I think our first topic that we were going to bring up is the most recent game, the Saturday night game from the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. It was a really revealing statement win for the Warriors. They've had a very up and down kind of, 500 basketball season. And I think it was showing that they still have something in the tank. They still can pull out that championship defense when they need to. And the big players showed out.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that both teams had that game circled in the calendar,
Right.
You try not to, and I'm a big proponent of this, you try not to overreact to regular season games, especially when it comes to a playoff matchup. But there's no doubt both teams had an interest in this one, especially the Celtics.
Right.
After the game, they lose and they're like, just another regular season game. And it's like, no, it wasn't. Come on. It was not, So, yeah, the Warriors have been very up and down, since they got serious about figuring out the rotation and sending James Wiseman down the G League. Their overall record is much better since then. So they're obviously a lot better than a near 500 team as their record is. But they've still been very inconsistent. But I do think it was a big game for them in that they showed when they want to get up for a game and play good defense, especially against the number one ranked Celtics offense this season, that they can get up for it when they really want to and get it done and play at a high level. So that was really exciting to see. That renewed my faith in this team a little bit. And that was without Andrew Wiggins, right, I should add. Now, Boston didn't have Horford. That's also a loss. But I would say it's a bigger loss not having Wiggins, as part of the rotation, and especially on the defense. So Klay Thompson stepped up big time. Played great defense on Tatum. He was on Tatum most of the night. That was old Klay Thompson. He looked like his old self. It was really impressive. And he was hitting shots and all that, but just the way he was on defense, and I liked it a lot. It was great. So
yeah, and that could be that could be him rounding into form, right? Because we did see, I don't know if he was at that consistent level in the playoffs last year and in the finals, but he had games where he locked in and, it looked like the old Klay, basically. So I think that seeing him do that this season, probably for the first time, I would say, having like a really dominant offensive and defensive two-way game like we know Klay is capable of and we're so used to seeing, I thought it was a really good sign. Steph, always played great, and I think kind of recognized that getting Klay the ball, kind of letting Klay have his moment and also scoring on his end. And Jonathan Kuminga, man, this kid is good. This kid is, after kind of a patchy start to the season, which is to be expected, young player kind of trying to find his role. Rotations weren't always right and stuff, but I don't think Kerr has a chance but to play him right now. He's playing so well, so confident, athletic, and he's just kind of like finding his role on the team, and they're trusting him, I think, which is one of the most important things.
Well, and he's also trusting the process. He's not forcing shots. He's not trying to get his, like we talked about a couple weeks ago. He's letting the game come to him, and he's getting rewarded for it. It's you have a good shot, but you instead, run around the screen or ditch it off to Curry, and it'll come back to you, and you get easy dunks and good looks at the at the basket, and he's trusting the system now in a whole new way. And I think him getting benched for several games was a really good thing, a kind of a wake-up call, like buy into the system or it's just not going to work. And let's hope we see the same thing with Moses Moody, who has been not playing at all lately either. So, but yeah, really good to see, really optimistic. You and I were both big on Kuminga last year. And yeah, it's great to see he's buying in. And he's a key component. They need him to be like that, to be a competitive team, especially with some of the guys that we lost.
Both him and Poole, I think, they kind of are relying on a super unit off the bench to provide a lot of energy. And and also with Kuminga, I would say what's keeping him on the floor, also, playing the right way on offense, kind of fitting into the system, like you said, but he's playing defense, man. He is, especially with Wiggins out, you're seeing it a little more because normally Wiggins would have like the toughest assignment. They're putting Kuminga on people and say, hey, stop him, Yeah,
I mean, it was Clay and Kuminga doing a lot of the guarding on Tatum and Brown. And Draymond was on Brown, and over again, Draymond, his basketball IQ, especially on defense, is so high. And you look at his footwork, which is really an underrated thing for a defender. Draymond would be out with his left foot forward, his right foot back, as in he's forcing Brown to go to his left over and over and over again, like we saw during the finals last year. And while we've seen Brown be better to his left this season, for sure, it definitely had an impact. He was just pushing them away every single time. So, yeah, I mean, I think these teams play again later in the season. That'll be interesting. But very encouraging. That's the most encouraged I've been about the Warriors all season. And I think they're kind of in that mode. Curry's going to turn 35. They're in that mode that we saw from LeBron during those Cavs runs at the end, where just pure autopilot during the regular season and waiting for the playoffs. And I mean, we've seen shades of that during the Warriors era with KD, where it was just get to the playoffs, but kind of on a different level where it feels like that's what's happening. And I feel a lot better about them knowing that they can get up and play when they want to. Having said that, let's get some more wins. Let's move up in the seedings. And, if you do too much of that, you create bad habits, and bad habits can come back to kill you in the playoffs. So, but anyway, very encouraging game, and Boston is still the favorites, but the Warriors it was definitely a statement win saying, oh yeah, we still got you. We still got you.
Yeah. I mean, they have a tough schedule upcoming, so I think that's going to be interesting to see kind of how
they got Milwaukee tonight.
Yeah. I believe they play Philly on Friday, but they might have a game before that. But it's the whole East Coast swing. And then, we have the Christmas game with Memphis. That's not going to be easy. So there's some things on the horizon that there's going to be more tests. This was like a test that they passed, and, we just have to see, they're not going to win all those games, I don't think. But if they can kind of,
get through the road trip with a decent record.
Right.
Yeah. And mentioning Memphis, Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. is playing fantastic now that he's back. He's only played in 15 of the team's like 27 games, and he leads the league in blocks.
Wow.
And he's putting up offensive numbers too. He is playing fantastic. So Memphis is not to be trifled with. We all kind of expected them to dip, but they're looking good. I believe they're 18-9. They're only half game back in the West behind the Pelicans.
Wow.
And speaking of the Pelicans, that's the other game we want to talk about. The other notable game of the last week was the Pelicans and the Suns, and the Pelicans took it to them pretty well. Zion looked great, and
it's been awesome.
And I mean, the Pelicans are the 1 seed in the West, just like that. It's a very close division still, conference still. But, and I really liked, look, the Suns are not a likable team. And that's not just as Warriors fans. Most teams don't like the Suns.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a CP3 thing. And they've done a lot of showboat stuff at the end of games instead of dribbling it out. We've seen it multiple times. They, in fact, did it to New Orleans in the playoffs last year. They did a showboaty finish.
Mm-hmm.
So Zion taking the ball, and I should add that if the game was over and you're just supposed to dribble it out, why was Chris Paul trying to score a layup there?
A layup,
right? Yeah. And then they started playing defense on Zion. He's like, okay. And he takes it down, does that windmill 360 jam.
Right.
That was filthy. I feel like that was a big statement. Like, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And we said dark horse pick to win the MVP was Zion, and
that's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah. I mean,
in the competition, I don't know.
He's definitely in the conversation now with his team, with the Pelicans being first in the West, but I loved it. That was amazing. Yeah. And not just because I hate the Suns. I thought it was a statement to the league, and it was just super fun. Also, can we get Zion the dunk contest this year, please?
Oh, that
was
awesome.
Amazing. So
I don't think he will, but that'd be amazing. Yeah, the Suns are they're a front running team, right? When they're playing well and on top of the world, they're gonna tell you about it and brag about it and everything else. And when something doesn't go their way, right? When somebody does something back to them, it's like they're gonna cry about it. And Chris Paul's one of the worst defenders of that. There's a lot of Chris Paul discourse in social media right now, which, hey, as a noted, I'm not a Chris Paul guy at all. I mean, he's a talented guy. I don't care for him. So, of course I love that stuff. So I'm like, yeah, bring it on.
No farmer's insurance for you or me.
No. And he's a dirty player. Like, people have been kind of posting he's like one of those behind the scenes dirty players. Like, if you're just watching it.
There's a whole sequence of him like punching guys in the nuts.
Yes.
He's done a lot of that. He's a nut knocker.
And even you were talking about the Pelicans. One of the guys, Jose Alvarado, there's a play where Chris Paul is in front of him on offense and actually swings his elbow back, connecting with his neck, but he does it in kind of like a way where the referee can't see it. I mean,
right.
That's a dirty player. That's a dirty play, and it's kind of bush league stuff, and he's been doing it his whole career. It doesn't take away from his greatness as a player, his talent, but it's like I said, I think people are really starting to notice it and be annoyed by it. So,
who else doesn't like Chris Paul? Kanye West.
Why is that, Jay? Twitter a buzz this week.
Hitler grabbed all the headlines,
right?
Him defending Hitler and all that. But his last tweet out the door is, saying he caught CP3 and Kim Kardashian together when they were married.
Threw him right under the bus, huh?
Yeah, and so we don't know when this was, but we have spoken before about the Kardashian-Jenner curse. Right?
It's so real. It's real.
The Suns are extra screwed because you got Booker.
Yeah.
Although I guess him and Kendall Jenner are not together anymore. But I think once you get the Kardashian stank on you
can't get rid of that curse.
I think it lasts. So the Suns have no chance. You got CP3 now.
Yeah.
You got a double Kardashian curse on the Suns. Sorry, Suns fans, you're screwed and you know it.
Lots of memes about, his coming home and trying to talk to his wife after that tweet dropped.
Yeah. Well, and people say, oh, he's just trying to defer from the Hitler thing and looking for attention or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I believe Kanye, because I'll say this. He's honest to a fault, clearly.
Right. Oh man.
Might want to put those Hitler feelings on the back shelf there, Kanye. But I think it's definitely true. So.
Oh man, yeah. Like we said, and that
we can cross the Suns off. They're not even a threat this year.
And that just opened the floodgates for the CP3 hate. It was like, oh yeah, he cheated on, he might have cheated on his wife. He's a dirty player, Then they're showing all the highlights of everything else. It's like, he was just catching strays from all sides.
Sounds like a sketchy situation. I wonder if Jake from from
State Farm?
Farmers, State Farm. Was he there too? These are the questions we need answers to.
Hit us up. Let us know. What are they going to say now? So,
and the Suns are on a slide now. They're 5-5 in the last 10. And I like the Pelicans being on top. I like the Pelicans. Pelicans have won 9 of their last 10. I should add. And I'm rooting for them. That team, they need those fans. They need this, something good to happen. So I think the Pelicans are going to hang around and finish at least in the top 5, depending on health.
Yeah, I think they also kind of have a similar feel to like the Warriors when they were knocking on the door. Kind of one of these young teams that nobody really, expected to climb as fast as they are. And sometimes when something gels like that, it can be explosive, and that's kind of what you're seeing now. They have a nice balance, picked up a lot of young pieces, and Zion's playing like an MVP. So and
I'm happy for CJ McCollum, who got a lot of flack for how things went in Portland. He's not a great defensive player, and neither is Dame. So they had that issue with the 2 guards, and both can't play very good defense. But since he's gone to New Orleans, he showed out. Like he's good. He's kind of underrated, under the radar.
Yeah, and he's a veteran. He can talk to the young guys and say, "Hey, I've been in the league this long." It's kind of funny saying he's a veteran because he's still. I wouldn't say he's over it. Is he over 30? I don't know if he's that old. I kind of feel like
I want to say so.
Yeah, he might be, but he's definitely a good.
He's 31.
31. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's getting up there, but he. I feel like he's a good mentor and but still very capable, obviously, and they are a dangerous team for sure.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see what happens with them for sure. I forget where we put them in our preseason ranks, but we did say it wouldn't surprise us for them to end up being like a top 4 seed or something like that if Zion stays healthy, and hence Zion potentially being an MVP candidate if he stays healthy.
Right.
So, and he looks trim too. There's all the jokes about him eating Popeyes and putting all that weight on. He looks good.
He does. He
does.
And
shooting
the ball.
You got to be feeling good to do 360 windmill dunks,
Right? Yeah.
And that's even in his contract extension. There's like a weight clause.
Oh, is there really? So he's
and he said he was fine with it because it would
motivate him,
keep him in check. Yeah. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So really kind of pleasant surprise. We've had a couple this season. The Kings are still hanging in there too.
Kings, 5th seed, yep. Trailblazers, I'm kind of surprised they're kind of hanging around too. I don't know if you saw the game last night. Lillard went crazy on the 3-pointers. He had 8 in the first half.
And then he had 11, right? And then he didn't play in the 4th or something. Yeah, right.
So I was happy about
Steve
that.
Kerr vibes, by the way. Steve Kerr vibes. We're gonna sit you for the 4th.
Right. Well, I just didn't want him breaking Clay's record, so I was like, I'm good with that. You can rest him a little bit.
Good to see him back.
14. So
good to see Lillard back. He was kind of forgotten about after missing last season. And so that's good to see too.
Absolutely. I don't know if there's anything else NBA wise. The East is
I will say the Nets and Kevin Durant's been playing. He's been on fire.
Yeah,
he's killing it. And the Nets are sneakily, they're 17-12 right now.
Yeah.
So, and we haven't heard anything from Kyrie lately, which is good for them anyway. Other than Nike dropping him, officially dropping him altogether, and rumors of New Balance, which is funny. That's like New Balance is like the
old man shoe,
fat white guy in Texas shoe,
right.
Midlife
crisis.
Yeah, like Kyrie Irving, New Balance is a weird combo, but I don't know. Let's not talk about Kyrie anymore. He's already sucked enough oxygen out of the room.
Oh boy.
All right, well, let's go on to football and follow up on kind of one of our strong points of last week's podcast is Brock Purdy taking the reins for the 49ers under center with Jimmy G going down. And I did say I said breaking news our last podcast that it had just come out during it that Jimmy G might not be done for the season, and because he didn't have the type of foot fracture that they thought he had, so he could be back for the playoffs. But in the meantime, Brock Purdy, first ever NFL start, going up against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and he was balling out. He played. He looked so good. It wasn't when he came in against Miami. When Jimmy goes down, it was a game management game. He was doing check downs and stuff like that, and just getting the ball to his skill players. This game against the Buccaneers was entirely different. He was dropping back, holding in the pocket, making some tough downfield throws outside the hash marks.
Yeah,
that's kind of a thing. The across the middle versus the outside passes. The outside passes are tougher throws for a quarterback.
Right.
He was making all the throws. He looked fantastic, and the team rallied around him. And we said before Jimmy went down that we said the 49ers are the favorites in the NFC. With all due respect to the Eagles, I think the 49ers are a scarier team. Jimmy goes down and our hopes are deflated, but then we go in and just crush the Buccaneers, and the 49ers have such a good defense, and defense travels in the playoffs. I think with how good Brock Purdy looked, they're still the favorites.
If they're not, they're right at the top of the list. I mean, it's the Niners and the Eagles and everybody else in the NFC.
Right, that's my opinion.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. I was actually expecting a game management, game plan from him, basically, not trying to have him do anything out of his element, run the ball, maybe a couple screens, a couple play action passes, to open it up. But you're right. He looked comfortable out there. He was throwing difficult passes, dodging defenders, right?
Yeah, not just across the middle, outside the hash marks, sideline passes, the difficult throws. He was making them.
Yeah, and so, I don't think you're going to want him to do too much of that still. I think you got to kind of make a balance of, you want to keep him in that zone of being confident and feeling like he's able to make all these throws. If you have him getting too out of his element, it might not be good. But, I mean, he played great. And you're right.
The Buccaneers. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, with that defense, you don't need to, be way over the top on the offense. You just need to get the ball down the field and get it to the guys who are going to make the plays. So,
yeah, and the Buccaneers did on defense what you would expect them to do. They came out, they stacked the box, they were taking away the run, and your quarterback needs to beat us, and he did. Yeah. And it got to the point that he was passing so well that they had to stop stacking the box and drop extra linebackers into protection, and it opened up the run. I mean, it was that apparent that he did that. So, wow, what a great story, and his family's in the stands and his dad's tearing up. It was pretty great.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
That was it's like a good feel good story, right? Somebody said it felt like watching the movie Rudy, I don't know if it's right. Yeah. Like the last pick of the 7th round. I mean, coming in and doing that, it's
right.
It's awesome, man.
Well, and we did touch on this last week. He played all 4 years at Iowa State. Ton of passing yards. He had like almost 90 touchdowns to 30 interceptions, 3-to-1 ratio, which is very solid, especially when, Iowa State, he's not passing to, it's not like he's Joe Burrow passing to Jefferson and Jamar Chase in Louisiana, right? He doesn't have those receivers, and he still put up those numbers and has that experience. And after what he's already shown, the Niners are going to have a very interesting offseason in terms of what are they going to do with quarterback. Jimmy looked great. Trey Lance had that devastating injury, still has potential, but I mean, they have to. Purdy's got to be in that mix. I know I don't want to overreact, but he has looked so good so far, and he has that swagger. I don't know what they're going to do. It's at least a conversation, right? I mean, you have to see how this year finishes out. He could be on kind of like a high, and could come back down to earth a little bit.
But
for sure.
Yeah.
The more and more game tape, of course, although we
Right.
said there was now going to be game tape going to this week, and that didn't
Got
make a difference.
scouted. Yeah.
Yeah.
It still did well. So
If you're the 49ers, do you consider maybe trading Trey Lance and rolling and signing Jimmy and rolling with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy and make that a quarterback competition? Is that the way? I don't know.
I would think it would be more likely that Jimmy would be the odd man out, but I don't know. I mean, it just,
But Jimmy has been so good. He's been so good too.
He has, he has. But I'm saying Brock moving up that rank kind of just throws a curveball in. And
so, do we get a Trey Lance, Brock Purdy quarterback competition? Maybe
that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Shanahan runs very advanced schematic plays, and for him, he desperately wanted the mobile quarterback who could unlock things. Strangely enough, it seems like Shanahan operates a better offense with a pure pocket passer.
Yeah. Yep.
Ironically.
Agreed. Yeah.
And maybe that's something for him to think about in terms of his outlook. Because I get you have a mobile quarterback and it creates a mismatch of numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like you can only have so many defenders on your skill players and guys at the line. And if the quarterback can run, that creates an imbalance. But and we've seen like Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. When he kind of broke out a couple of years ago, it was very scary, that imbalance that he created. But defense has adjusted, and he hasn't been the same since. He's still been a really good quarterback, don't get me wrong. Right. But he hasn't – you saw the adjustment from defenses, and he wasn't able to exploit them the same way. And, it feels like that's what Shanahan wants to do. He wants to do a Lamar Jackson type thing. But, I mean, Brock's just sitting back in the pocket delivering footballs. And
right. And that fits the team and the receivers that we have, Yeah,
like especially you have a bunch of skill guys.
Right.
And
you got to get them the ball.
Let's not worry about your quarterback running. Let's just have a guy who can make some throws and hold in there, hang in there in the pocket and do those things.
And that was, I feel like for me, that was the frustrating thing about the Shanahan, Jimmy, offensive schemes was that they just weren't trusting him to get the ball to those guys. And I think it was like a waste of an offense, basically, right? You're just running, run. And granted, we do have a run game and it does open other things up. But for my liking, Kittle wasn't getting the ball nearly enough, right? And now you're seeing him be a weapon again, right?
It seems like Purdy and Kittle have a lot of chemistry.
Absolutely.
He was going to Kittle quite a bit. That's the most I've seen. That has to be the most receptions he's had all season.
Right.
Has to be, right?
I mean, you're noticing the scores are going, right? Like we're scoring a lot more points and a lot more weapons. You don't know where the offense is coming from. So
several minutes into the second half, they were up 35-0. They could have piled on. They could have put up 50 in that game. But they were just kind of running the clock out and
it was over.
It was over. Right? It was over. It was over at halftime at 28-0. Really.
True.
Yeah.
And I guess we should also mention the Deebo Samuel.
So the good news is, I mean, when we saw that happen live,
I thought
he's done for the year. He's done for the year.
Could be ACL.
Now it sounds like it's just a bad, really, really bad ankle sprain, I guess.
Right.
So he should be back.
I heard
in a couple
MCL
weeks.
sprain. Yeah.
No, his ankle, not knee.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. It looked like it should be his knee, but it was just his ankle. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So ankle sprain. Depends if it's a high ankle sprain, that could be a little bit longer.
Right. But I think the feeling is that he should be back for the playoffs. And
that's great. Yeah.
That's huge. And then not to be underestimated, the threat of McCaffrey on the field. He has sort of what I would call a Steph Curry like gravity on the football field because he's such a threat as a receiver and a running back that he draws so much attention. And I think that's been opening things up for Kittle and Ayuk. Because McCaffrey goes out into the slot and runs out wide. He's getting safety attention.
Yeah.
So he's really opening things up for his teammates too.
Absolutely.
And that's been a noticeable. I mean, what a great trade this has turned out to be.
Man, it's perfect. It's like if you could have a player that would unlock all the other parts of our offense, he's the perfect one because he's an unknown. You don't know exactly how the ball is getting to him. And it's a defense that scares you, like you said, and the gravity will just open everything else up. So he's been great.
And in terms of production, since Purdy's taken over, the Niners were down to Miami 7-3 in that game. With Purdy under center, they put up 30 points.
Wow.
And then they put up 35 and just took their foot off the gas. I mean, Purdy under center, right now they're that's like one of the most productive offenses in the whole league since Purdy's been under center. You can't deny that.
And not to mention
against good teams. That Tampa Bay under DVOA had the second ranked defense behind the Niners.
Wow.
And the Niners just trounced them.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and not to mention, you're putting that kind of offense out, and then what's your defense doing too, right? Your defense is allowing 7-10 points a game.
Yeah.
Like that's championship material. Like that's where you are at the point where you're dominating the field on both ends of the ball. It's exciting. Yeah. I don't know how the season's going to end, but
so a lot has happened since I made this prediction, but I'm standing with it. I said Niners, Kansas City rematch in the Super Bowl, and I'm still standing with it.
Yeah.
Not exactly the way I thought it would be playing out, but I'm sticking with it.
You think Kansas City is going to come out on top in the AFC?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be them or the Bills, but
Bills. Yeah. I think you're right.
We're going to see a rematch of that AFC Championship game from last year, which was
I hope so.
Fantastic. Whoever had the ball last, right?
Right, exactly.
So yeah,
nice.
I'm going to Niners and Kansas City. Still my prediction.
All right, put it in the bank, people.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, it's very exciting. Bay Area sports are having a good time right now. You know,
for sure.
It's like a lot of teams having some success. So, yeah, I guess we should move on. I haven't been able to pay as much attention as I wanted, but I was going to ask you for like a World Cup update with all the teams. I know there's some teams playing right now, and I think you were telling me about a game where there was like a lot of drama and benches clearing and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, that was Argentina and the Netherlands. And actually, as we record this, I have it on over here. Argentina is up 2-0 against Croatia right now.
Okay.
Just about to go to halftime. Yeah, really chippy game with the Netherlands, and benches cleared multiple times. It was also a really wild game because Argentina was up, I believe, 2-0. Then it was 2-1. And then you got into the extra time.
Mm-hmm.
And Netherlands scores with about 30 seconds left in the game to tie it. And there was a lot of the ref lost control of the game. He was horrible. He lost control of the game, and things started to get really dirty. At one point, a player for Argentina trips a guy pretty blatantly, gets up after the call, and hammers the ball at the Netherlands bench. He just kicks it right out. Full boom. And then the bench is clear, and a guy from Netherlands comes and body checks him to the ground. Just and a full-out body check.
What was the ref doing during all this? Was the ref
blowing his whistle a bunch? But it was already too late. He let it get out of control. Yeah, right. He let it get out of control, and it was just, man, it was a heated battle. And then ultimately Argentina wins in a shootout after the overtime period.
Okay.
And the bench is clear again. And it was just dirty. It was full. It was a dirty game, and kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I believe there were 17 bookings.
Jeez.
Like 16 yellow cards and a red card. And there probably could have and should have been more.
Wow.
You know, a lot of controversy over it. A lot of people not fans of Argentina, and that I'm still rooting for Argentina just because I want to see Messi do well. Mm-hmm. And they're up 2-0 right now, so that's looking good for them.
Nice.
So that was good. Yeah, a lot of games, more shootouts, a ton of shootouts. So far in the knockout stages, we've had games have either been a blowout and pretty boring, or they go down to the wire and they're shootouts. I think there's been four shootouts already in the knockout stage.
Wow.
Yeah. So fun to watch.
Yeah.
My original prediction, I had Argentina versus France in the finals, which is looking good right now. And I should talk about a little bit that France versus England game was another abomination of officiating.
Yeah.
I mean, France had so many dirty plays. They're just pulling guys down from behind. They're not giving yellows out. There's one early on where Harry Kane is in the penalty box, gets pulled from behind, like not even close to a play on the ball. It should have been the penalty kick, and it wasn't even called a foul of any type.
Wow.
And there's a lot of that. Now England did get their chance with a second penalty kick, and poor Kane sends it high over the crossbar. And that's going to sting. He's going to live with that one, especially against France of all teams, right? But the officiating was just absolutely dreadful. Some of it's just hard to even explain. I can't quite get it, but yeah. So for France though, Mbappe, who's 23 years old, highest paid athlete on the planet now. I think he got like a $600 million contract or something crazy like that. He is really good. So I feel like we're preparing for the star power showdown. We're gonna get Messi for Argentina against Mbappe for France.
Nice.
And should be good for the ratings. It should be a good final. So although I mean, France has to beat Morocco, which is the first African nation team to ever make it this far in the World Cup.
Nice.
And funny, they have they've beaten Spain. And
that's right.
They're beating the countries that have occupied Morocco. Spain and Portugal, who have both occupied Morocco at one point, they've knocked them both out.
Hey,
And so France also has occupied Morocco at one point.
Right.
So it's the occupation imperialism revenge tour or something like that. So I would not be disappointed to see Morocco take out France and go to the finals. That would be pretty cool to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually went to Morocco when I was like 10 or 11 years old. Beautiful place, man. Casablanca,
Marrakesh.
Really nice. Yeah, Marrakesh is nice.
It's on my to-do list.
Beautiful country for sure. So, but no, I was just gonna say, man, it seems like you're talking about referees and them having like lost control of the games. That's so frustrating to have, like, if a referee who plays such a pivotal role, like in a game like that, like, and
on the biggest stage,
right, and they can just kind of lose control and really dictate the winner of a game, right, or how out of control the game gets. It's pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, and that's definitely a thing in the NBA. There was the Mavericks game last night. At one point, they led a basket, and Luka yells at his teammate. He goes, "Come on, let's go!" Yells at his teammate, right? He gets teed up. He got teed up by the ref
for yelling at his teammate. I feel like that happened to Draymond.
And then they clarified
too.
It did happen to Draymond. Yeah,
I don't know if it was last year or the year before.
And he's like, "I'm yelling at my teammate," and these officials are so hard-headed that they can't admit they're wrong. That they just stuck with it, and they went and
make it about themselves. Really,
it was a close game too. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
So, they need to. The NBA needs to get a spine and crack down on this a little bit because it's really gotten out of control. Stuff like that. Like, you can admit you're wrong.
Right. But it is a hard job. I think.
Oh, it's a very hard job, but they're making it harder on themselves with nonsense like that.
Right. If you got a call wrong, like you said, maybe you don't change the call around on the spot, but you can tell the guy, hey, I messed that one up or something. But like you said, it's a lot of stubbornness, and they want to be the star of the show. So
that reminds me of the time I believe he was like smirking or laughing on the bench, and Tim Duncan got ejected from the bench.
Yeah. Well, that was what are you doing? That was Joey Crawford, I believe.
Joey Crawford.
They had a little history there, the two of them. I even think he got suspended a little bit, the ref, for some not for
really?
verbal altercations with Duncan. Yeah, like you said, it should never be taken out to have a personal vendetta against a player or something like that. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
You're not
the league needs to crack down on the officiating a little bit. Some of that stuff is just insane. Come on.
Yeah. And I feel like there's certain players that definitely have, the ear of the officials, and certain players who don't, like certain superstars
Curry
on our
clearly
favorite
doesn't.
team who
Curry doesn't.
I feel like every time there's a potential call or a review, for a Curry shot, he's not going to win it, which is insane because he's one of the, best players in the league, one of the best players in NBA history. Like,
I can't figure it out.
The whistle he gets is just ridiculous. It's insane. So, but, the fact that he's still great despite all that and doesn't get, the calls he should and get to the line says a lot.
Right.
So, all right.
All right. Well, on the final note, I do want to talk briefly about Major League Baseball put together a contemporary commission, and it was going to give an opportunity for some players who have been left out of the Hall of Fame another chance. And the whole thing turned out to just be a complete farce, just like the Hall of Fame already is, with a bunch of sanctimonious douchebag sports writers. It's Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds denied once again. And here's the thing. If you want to stand on a soapbox and be like, well, they cheated and used steroids and blah, 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 and you can put aside the fact that Bonds had 3 MVP awards before any of that. And so did Clemens. He had Cy Young awards before any of that. That's one thing. But then why are certain players who, how about David Ortiz? David Ortiz is in the Hall of Fame. He tested positive. But you know what? He's a nice guy. He's a really nice, likable guy. Right. Bonds and Clemens were assholes to the media. And the fact that that is coming into play in this at all shows what a joke the Hall of Fame is. The Pete Rose thing as well. Just hang it up. Like, no one gives a shit anymore. Like, it's the whole thing's a joke. So they did it again. It was like, oh, they had a chance to redeem themselves with this contemporary voter commission. There's like 16 people who could vote on the ballot, and Bonds and Clemens weren't close, and the whole thing's just a joke. I'm like,
it's a shame.
Name me. Okay, let's go. Let's give me 1985 through 2005, 20 years. Name me the best pitcher of that era. Roger Clemens. Right. Best hitter of that era. Barry Bonds. It's not even close.
Right.
It's not even close. There's plenty of guys in the Hall of Fame who were taking amphetamines and all kinds of other stuff. It's just it's sad. It's such a joke. Maybe we can get like a proper youth council on here to kick all these old sanctimonious sports writers out.
Yeah,
and make it relevant again. What a joke.
It's a problem with the sport in general. I think that kind of is like a symptom of
You're right, and I think that is hurting the sport in general. Just the sanctimonious, the hypocrisy. Like Bud Selig's in the Hall of Fame, who oversaw that entire era.
Right.
But
not the players.
And it's such a joke. It's a turnoff of the entire sport to the youth.
Yep. I know I don't watch like I used to, for sure. I just, I kind of see what the Giants are doing here and there, but could care less, Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
what they're doing is not signing Aaron Judge. He went back to the Yankees.
Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you? And there was like a report that saying that he was like close to it or something, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
and then he got a lot of heat for
John
that.
Heyman, he got a lot of heat.
Yeah. So,
but supposedly it was a really close decision, so it was definitely, But
was that a leverage pull for Judge, trying to see if he can get a little more money out of the Yankees?
Possibly, but I also think he was genuinely interested.
Yeah,
as well.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. So, oh well.
Anyway, baseball continues to get in its own way.
Yeah. All right. I think we got through a lot of stuff today. I don't know what else is going on, but
yeah, still 2-0 Argentina.
Nice.
So, I think that about does it. Those of you listening, thank you for listening, and please subscribe, whether you're on YouTube or Apple or Spotify. We appreciate it. Leave some comments.
Yeah.
And
we're on all the platforms.
We'll be back here next week.
See you later.